Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Today we are speaking with Joe Davis. Joe is on a mission to show ordinary people how to tap into their intuitive superpower. That sounds exciting and interesting. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Me too. We were just talking about all the things. When you get to be our age, you've done so many things. It's just like, oh, I forgot. I'm an author. Oh, I forgot. I've written all these things. Oh, I forgot. I did this. I'm an artist. But today she's here to talk to us about Lift a Sister Up. I love that. So tell us all about it.
So yeah, it's really funny. I went through a season of my life about 9 years ago, and I had a great job. I had lots of friends I worked with at work. And, you naturally become friends with the people you work with. And I thought we were all this like happy family. And I got let go from my job. And everyone I was working with just sort of vanished. They kind of disappeared. They sort of went on with their lives. And I was just devastated. And I thought, why? I looked around at my circle of friends at the time. And I thought, why am I surrounded by people that either I can't count on, or I thought we were like so close and it was just a story I wrote in my head. And I sat with that alone in my house and sad and rather devastated. And I thought, we attract what we are. So if I want to attract some rock star, amazing friendships and divine opportunities in my life, I better step up and be that. And so that's where I created Lift the Sister Up. It's just a nice, safe place for women to land and encourage each other and support each other and cheer each other on. And in the process of working on myself, a lot of really remarkable people just sort of found me and connected with me and supported me and kind of matched my energy of that sacred space that I really, you got to go through some heartache to sort of figure out what serves your highest good and what doesn't. And sometimes life naturally curates that space for you. And so that was me. I had lots of nudges and whispers and I didn't pay attention. And so that's what I got, was that big old smackdown. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And that's how it started. And it just sort of has exploded from that space into everything from retreats to new friendships and adventures, coursework, teaching other women how to, step in their own power and honor their sacred space as well. So pretty magical.
It is really magical. It's one of those things that you find your mission.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything just sort of falls into place and the right people come and you get to meet such interesting and amazing people out there that they're not a lot different from you, but they're doing something slightly different or really different.
It's fascinating. People are fascinating. Absolutely.
They really are. And they all offer something so unique. It's part of why I love doing what I'm doing, is because I get to talk to people that are doing such interesting and unique things that are just like really making a big difference in the world. So, you talked about doing retreats and things like that. I know you're in Mexico right now. Do you do them down there? Or?
Yeah, we are traveling right now. We're traveling abroad in Mexico, and we're in this quaint little town in the highlands, which is like in the dead center of Mexico. Everyone always thinks we're near the beaches, and I'm like, there's only beaches on the edges of Mexico. It's like a
Like
huge,
big.
huge country. Mexico City is, I think, the fifth largest city in the world. So I giggle because I thought that too. Kind of like, you live in Idaho and you have to go, okay, so when people think about Idaho, what do they think about? Idaho potatoes. They don't think about technology. They don't think about community. They don't think about the diversity of the state of Idaho, which is beautiful. So,
We're
yeah,
the
we're
number
traveling.
one producer of cobalt. Cobalt.
Isn't that wild? That's so wild. So, and I was born in Idaho, so that's another fun thing that we chatted about. But, there's just so much to be gained in humility and knowledge when you're traveling abroad, especially me learning a new language. So being able to put on retreats is like a nice way to kind of bring people into the fold when there's someone that's already here that sort of laid the groundwork, and it becomes this really magical experience for my clients. So it's a lot of fun.
Are you doing them on kind of systematically? Like, will you be doing some after the first of the year?
Yep, February, the end of February, we're actually doing one. It's called the Release Retreat. I'm sure we'll do more, but it's Release Retreat, 7 Days of Miracles, and it's clients that have gone through my course, Big Mess to Big Magic. But almost all of my clients are empaths. Actually, I would say all of my clients are empaths. I'll correct myself, or they probably wouldn't find me. And we've been teaching them how to unplug and tap into their intuitive gifts. There's so many people out there that are carrying like bricks of anxiety in their life and they think it's theirs. And I giggle because I'm like, you're really okay, right? Like you're really kind of a rock star. You're really gifted. You're really powerful. You're all of these things, but you think you are a walking ball of anxiety. And when they learn that it's not even their anxiety, that it's them, absorbing everyone's energy around them and everyone's nerves around them, because they're not honoring their sacred space. No one teaches us how to do that. And so once they learn how to honor that sacred space, they can sort of, be a witness of their awareness, just sort of watching people coming and going in situations, and they're holding their own and they're not having to put up walls or boundaries. They can just be this big ball of light, and things that don't serve them just naturally bounce off of them. It's a much more magical, effortless way to live. And I think we have these gifts of intuition for a reason, and when we don't use them, look, we can link almost every traumatic event in our life back to not listening to our gut. Some things are unavoidable, but there's a chunk of things out there that we just weren't listening, and there were signs and red flags. And so it's a beautiful thing when you can quiet that down and then open up this whole other phenomenal part of our heart and our brain that can sort of work together in this dance, to keep us safe and to help us manifest. And then it gets fun.
The magic, I think, really happens once you start allowing yourself to realize that you are this creative human being and you do have power. You are so powerful. And to get beyond the programming that we all grew up with, or, sit in the corner and be quiet and do your menial task, and we'll give you your 4 pence and be grateful you get a day off every week. See how lucky you are. and and the people that you're enslaved with, they aren't really your friends, and they're just as miserable as you are. And when you surround yourself with that vibration, it just like it wears you down and wears you out. I think it's why, people caught up in that, they die early because they have nothing else. They don't realize that if they could just break through, crack that wall that's between them and the reality that they'd really like to experience, just like where the magic happens.
Game changer. And things become more effortless and fluid. I always say, if things feel really hard, look at your intention behind the goal. You may have to clean up your intention a little bit. If things look really hard, what what is the resistance? Where's the resistance? Like, how is it linked to your deepest fears? How is it muddy? And when we clean up our space, our food, sometimes our family, friends, our work environment, we start honoring ourselves and stop trying to prove our goodness, because we're raised to prove our goodness because it keeps us in line. If Jesus isn't watching, Santa Claus is watching. I mean, there's this huge, I'm sure the last, third of the year, the last quarter of the year, I was much more easy to manage as a kid because Santa's coming.
Yeah.
So, we're taught to sort of navigate the world in a very inauthentic, sort of dishonest way. It's not our natural nature to be quiet and sit down in the corner. And, we want to color on the walls, and we want to write, and we want to play, and we want to create. And I think there's a way to have, daydream. I think there's a way to have order and creativity in the world, and listen to our intuition, and, fill our purpose on this planet, our sacred contract. I think we make it very complicated, and it does not have to be so complicated.
I think it's more for controlling us than anything else. It's not, when you don't control people, then creativity thrives. And it may look like chaos, but it's really not. It balances out. The chaos happens when you have that pressure to conform put down on a group of people that are creative by nature. We are born creators. We are born perfect. We are good. We are born good. I don't care what religion tells you you're not, they're wrong. You are born good, and you have a purpose, and you are divine, not divinely made, but you are divine just by virtue of the fact that you are a soul living a human experience in this body. And, once you get that piece, and you can just, like, if we could just teach our kids that, if they were just raised with that.
It's so funny that you say this, because I was listening to someone the other day talking, and I was like, exactly. And I won't get it word for word, but I've been saying this for years. You'll be like, exactly. But babies love themselves. They love themselves madly. They love their fingers and their toes, and they're just excited to be here, and they don't ask for much, like basic needs. They're fascinated,
mesmerized by lights, and
they're mesmerized by things in the room that we can't even see. Babies are absolutely magical. And I think when it comes full circle, that's the point. Because if you love yourself madly, you'll honor your sacred space. You'll make good decisions, good for honoring your body, your heart, your mind, your spirit, and you'll attract more of those things that serve your highest good. So I think it's really full circle. We're raised to be docile and manageable, and we are raised to be congruent. And, I don't think that that's really in our nature. We do need solid foundation. We do need grounding, but that playful space is where all the good stuff comes from, all the good stuff. And that playful space includes loving ourselves ridiculously, like madly loving ourselves.
And being able to laugh and be silly, and, so what your body is aged, you still can enjoy things and express that joy in a way that raises the vibration in the room around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the earlier in life we honor our sacred space, the more physically able we are to enjoy as we age and get older. So yeah, it all kind of comes around. None of there's a price for not doing the work, and it's a check that people someday may not be able to cash. So I think it's important the earlier we really learn that radical self-love, that listening to our gut, those nudges and whispers, those intuitive hits, the more quiet we're able to get in our minds, and honor this experience, and, listen to those nudges and whispers. I think the sooner we do that, the more epic our later years get, instead of lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson, because we're not getting the point. Those are not fun.
numbing yourself along the way, because a lot of people
Mhm.
do that in different
Mhm.
forms. But when you're present and not numbing, you're able to see the magic that happens around you, and the signs and the things that just you miss if you're really busy or if you're numb.
Mhm.
And they're subtle, but they're so powerful when they happen.
It's so much fun. It becomes a very playful space to go, let's see what happens today. And I find it interesting because, you know, I've never met an addict, or I don't work with people that are active in addiction, but I do have clients that are recovering addicts.
Mhm.
Um, and I've never met an addict that's not an empath, ever. And I think, well, no wonder, they're having this anxiety. And I know people personally I'm not close to, but I know them personally who take a lot of medications for anxiety. And it's almost like when you look at their energy, their soul's here and their physical body's here, but there's no connection. And it's like, they've had trauma. And so of course they distance themselves from their heart space and their soul and their guttural instincts. They're like, oh, I can't trust myself. So they've separated from themselves in that trauma. And then they're continuing to take medication for anxiety. And I'm like, wow, I wish the world knew that majority of our anxiety, it's not even ours. It's because we're not honoring our space. We haven't done a little bit of work, and we honor that space. And then all of a sudden I'm able to go, oh, that's Jill's stuff. I'm going to send that back to her with love. Oh, I'm feeling anxious. What is the deal? I don't have anything to be anxious about. Oh, Jill's anxious and she was just in the room with me, or she's sitting next to me on the couch, or we're driving somewhere together. Why do I feel anxious? And I have to look over at Jill driving and say, are you anxious? Because I feel really anxious and I don't have a reason to be. You're catching on to it. And I joke because I tell my clients all the time, be careful, because empaths make great narcissists, because it's me, me, me. I'm feeling all this anxiety. I just want everyone to get along around me. I just want everyone around me to be okay. And then we become these just twisted caregiver archetypes and hero archetypes and the martyr. So I look at this spinning cycle of chaos that's all up here and all in here. And there's an easier way. That's not the life we're meant to live, for sure.
No, it's not. And the idea that everybody's on their own journey and it's okay for them to be in their own mess.
Mm-hmm.
They're either going to be the victim or the hero of their own story, but the choice is theirs. It's not ours as empaths to try to fix it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally have been responsible for that for most of my adult life, actually most of my life in general.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finally caught on to that, really my anxiety, because I had anxiety all the time, but it was anxious for everybody else. It's like, oh my God, if you don't stop doing that, this is probably what's going to happen to you. And it's like, okay, well, that's probably what's going to happen to them, but it's their journey and they'll either get through it or they won't. But it's not up to me, and it's not my job to fix them. If I can help them, I'll help them, but they need to ask.
Ask for the tissue.
Yeah.
I don't need to offer the tissue.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to prove. I'm here if you need me. I have
Mhm.
tissues. Let me know how I can help you. I'll be right here. I'll hold space for you.
Yeah.
But I
But
don't
it's
need to
over here
stop
and you
your,
have to come and
yeah.
get in that space. I'm not going to bring the space to you.
Mm.
And that's a
Yeah.
big lesson for people who are.
And I'm not going to stop your pain because it's so uncomfortable for me. I see a lot of people that they're very helpful and they're very like, I'm super helpful and loving. And I'm like, you're an asshole. And they don't understand what that means. And I'm saying, you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, but you're bleeding out for everyone. You've missed the point. Honor your sacred space and then be around for many years to love and help other people around you as they ask for it. I'm just always amazed with you can find someone and no one would ever say a negative thing about them. They're so nice, they're so kind, they're so generous. And I'm like, no, they're not. Because they don't know how to book the massage. They don't know how to say no. They don't know how to eat, where they're listening to their body. That's good for me. That's not, so I just, it's again, how we were raised. A lot of us is proving that goodness, that we're worthy, that we're enough. And so we pour into everyone around us, but we don't honor this. And I don't think you have a right on this planet. You haven't earned the right to show up for other people until you first understand how to show up for yourself. Because even in showing up for people, it's twisted and self-serving. If you can show up for someone and because it brings you joy and you've slept well and you feel solid and you can handle it and it's not about you, you're just showing up because you're good at something, you have the time, you have the energy, and it brings you joy, it'll always turn out well. But it never fails if you show up to prove goodness, worthiness, yada, yada, and you haven't first done your work, it's not going to end well. You're either, adrenal fatigue is real.
It is real.
Autoimmune diseases are real.
Yeah.
There's a cost, there's a price.
There really is. And it makes me feel good when I see people stepping up and talking about this. And I'm hoping that future generations are raised with the idea that they are enough, and who they are is who they are. It's okay. And I do see some of that going on in some of the younger kids. Their parents are letting them just be people and not making judgments on them and pushing them into things that really don't align with who they are, and I even think things like the homeschooling movements are really good. They allow kids to just be kids most of the time. They can learn to read. You can really learn everything you need to know in about 2 years when you have the brain power to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's interesting about that too is, the front of the brain develops at different rates for boys versus girls. And some people even talk about how there's certain levels of math that you can't even begin to wrap your brain around until your brain has aged to a certain, place for you, which is why like now I'm learning a language. But in high school, I could never stick with Spanish. Granted, I'm a little more immersed here and it's not easy, but my brain, learning a language is basically programming or formulating. So it's like coding. So you're coding, well, that's sort of a math skill as well as a language skill. So now I'm absorbing it much more quickly than when I was in high school or middle school. So yeah, it's interesting.
In learning languages, I used to think of it as synonyms for words. And when you're young, you don't really have that big of a vocabulary. So trying to find other words for the same word isn't as fun or interesting. So when you learn another language, I used to have to translate in my head. I couldn't just like form the words. But some people who are really good at languages, they can think in another language. They just have all of the pieces there that it's just part of who they are. It's not like they're going back and forth. I used to have to go back and forth.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's un poco y poco, like a little by little, because
Little by little.
it's just a lot. But it's good to travel. It's good to learn respect and humility for other cultures, and I think it's very important, especially for young people, to travel. But yeah, I love that the world is sort of looking at things a little bit differently now, or at least in the circles I'm in. Very open-minded, very, it's funny in my course, I always talk about, I try to keep it very simple because it's almost like the crash course for life. It's like 4 sessions. It's like, my gosh, I think I've read probably hundreds of books, at least 100. Taking all of that information and going, okay, if we had 5 years left to live, what information can I share with the client or a student? that can transform their life in 30 days. So I have an outline I use, but then most of it is very intuitive. Like it intuitively flows through me, what I need to share with them, how I need to, work with them specifically and uniquely to where they're at in their life. But I always say that if you think about the world, like there's 8 or 9 billion lanes on this highway, and we're all going to kind of end up in the same area, right? The same destination, whatever that looks like. And we're all in these lanes, and I'm in my crazy clown car, and you're in your crazy clown car. And we might share a lane for a minute, like we're having a moment here. This is awesome, right? And I'm cheering you, out my window, cheering you on out of my crazy clown car. And you're like, woohoo, girl, let's shine a light on what you're doing. It's so wonderful, right? But I'm not going to climb into your crazy clown car. And you shouldn't climb into mine either, because you may not get out. Like you don't want to climb up in there. You don't know what's going on, right? But we're honoring each other. And I did a post a couple days ago, and I said, can we all just mind our own damn business? Like, why do we do this thing where we, have to jump in here and jump in here? Why can't we cheer each other on and hold space for each other without making it about us and our goodness? Like, why can't we just, see a person struggling? And there's a difference between seeing someone attacked on the street and doing nothing versus, I really have all this inner work to do and I have all this childhood trauma, but instead I'm going to self-medicate and I'm going to, put my nose in everybody else's business. And I'm going to be the giver and the doer and the PTA mom and the, I'm going to show up for everybody else and I'm going to try to, curate their lives. I mean, I look at it.
People pleasers.
Yes, I look at it and I'm like, our breath on this planet makes us worthy. Our first cry as a baby, boom, you're worthy. You don't have to do anything else. This proving and this way the world sees us. I did a talk about a month or two ago in Dallas, Fort Worth on the courage to be disliked. And I'm like, whole room full of women, big old room full of women. And I'm like, we got a problem. This is like a problem. It's like an epidemic, how many of you have careers that your parents encouraged you to have and you're miserable? How many of you and I started telling, I said, shout out, tell me something in your life that's not going well or that isn't going the way you want it, or tell me something you want more of in your life. And I'll tell you how it's connected to your lack of courage. I will break it down. And it was really interesting. Like there was a lot of aha moments in that room because I get it. Like we've all been there, like especially women. I don't know, man, women, I don't know what end of the stick we got, but boy, did we kind of have somebody climb up in our brains and move our furniture around and say, this is how it's supposed to be. It's so twisted. And it's when you untwist it all and you just step back and look at it, the ghost of regret, they're standing around our deathbed someday. How many people you want in the room? How many ghosts you want? Let's make decisions that honor our sacred space and that really are about loving ourselves. So simple, and get comfortable disappointing people. It's going to happen anyway. It's just a matter of time. Be kind, but be honest. I mean, I think there's a very clean way to operate, but it becomes really about making choices. And I teach my students this: if you had 5 years left to live, are you going to accept that dinner invitation? Maybe not. If you had 5 years left to live, you're going to keep that job you're showing up to every day that you hate. If you had 5 years left to live, are you going to spend one more family Christmas with in a room full of toxic, covert narcissists who get you all spun up and it takes you 3 weeks to recover from that visit home? Probably not. So I just think there's a simple, much more simple way to function in this lifetime. It is so short. We gotta stop screwing around.
I agree 100%. It's just about making different choices and showing up for yourself and recognizing it doesn't matter if other people don't like you. You don't have to like them. You can make the decision to walk into a room and figure out who's interesting
Do they
to
like me?
you.
Do they like me? I don't care. Do I like them? Spend some time with that thought Am I going to like
Yeah.
these people? Are these my people? Spend some
Are
time
these
there.
my people? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I find that people I meet that everyone loves, I am very concerned. Because if everyone loves you, when have you spoken up? When have you stood up for someone else that ticks somebody else off? If you're in this space, are you a politician? Because if
Yeah.
you don't speak up for something, so I always used to look at people, oh, everybody loves them, blah, blah, blah. And I used to think that was really good. And then I'd get really close to them. And then I think, when I leave the room, what's that conversation going to look like? When I get up from that table, are they celebrating me? Are they speaking highly of me? Or do they have, are they sending good energy my way when I leave the table? Or are they, what's happening there? Because this is a really actually kind of a recent lesson, like really recent. I've learned it over and over and over again. Clearly, I didn't really, really learn it. It was the whisper, the whisper, the whisper, and the smackdown. But I'm really looking at relationships, interpersonal relationships, very different. I will take, forgive me, but I will take resting bitch face, direct, honest, kind. What you see is what you get any day over warm, fuzzy, mushy, shady, needs to be liked by everyone. Because I don't know how to, as I get older, I'm sure you're recognizing this too, Jill. As I get older, I'm recognizing the value of my space. And I really feel like, gosh, I want to be around integrity-filled people that love me so much, they'll tell me when I'm going the wrong direction, or that's not good for you, or I don't have a good feeling about that. Like, I want people around me that, you have broccoli in your teeth. I mean, start there. Start with those friends.
Yeah. Real people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of friends.
Well,
At this point in my life, I'm just like,
I read a meme the other day. I was telling a client this morning about it. And I said, she goes, I don't know how much I like people lately. And I said, I read a meme and it said, I've done so much personal work that now I don't like anybody.
story.
But I appreciate them all. Like, they're all fascinating and beautiful, but I don't know if, maybe I'm okay to sit at the dinner table alone for a bit and keep working on me for a minute, which isn't really, we're humans. We need to interact, but it just made me giggle. So funny.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, I feel that way personally, but I like being around people. I just don't need to be around people. I can go and be around people and appreciate their uniqueness, and I can appreciate what's really special about them. And I can ignore the things that are irritating about them, because we all have those things that rub people the wrong way. And in small doses, I love it. But I don't have the need to be around people to have them build me up, to make me feel worth, taking up space on the planet.
Mhm.
And that was a problem for me for a long time. It was just like I would look around to, like, who's going to like me so that I can feel like I have value as a human being.
Mhm.
And I just don't care anymore.
We call that noise. That's what I call it. I'm like, oh, you
Yeah.
got a lot of noise around you. What work are you avoiding?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
are you avoiding? If you have to get drunk at every get together, something's going on there. Those aren't your people. If you have to fill every night of the week because you can't be quiet with your own mind. I think it was Albert Einstein said, if a man was left alone with his own mind, he'd go mad.
See.
I'm like, I see that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They've done studies where they've taken people that they put in solitary confinement for long periods of time, and they do go crazy. A
Mm-hmm.
lot
It
of them just,
rewires your brain. It shuts down parts of your brain. They actually kind of go
yeah.
dormant.
Hmm.
You lose blood flow. It's a real thing. You're right.
Kind of scary when you think about they do this to people on purpose as punishment
Mm-hmm.
for some perceived transgression.
Mm-hmm.
So you went and got some books before we started. Do you want
I
to tell us about
did.
those books?
I did. So I've been on this collaborative author journey. So these are the books right now that I can.
Radical self-love. I like that.
Oh yeah, it's saucy, and all my writing is very saucy. So I always tell people, I'm like, when you read my contributions to these books, just be warned. My idea of kindness is not warm and fuzzy and squishy. My idea of kindness is also a little gritty and sharp and raw and real and direct and honest, because that's what I want. I want to be surrounded by those raw, real gritty, honest people. What you see is what you get. So all of these books are really an exercise of love. All of them, the proceeds go back to nonprofits and supporting other women in their personal growth or random acts of kindness around the world. It's super funny too, because there's another Jo Davis that's an author, and she writes like saucy romance novels. That's not me. I'm sure she's lovely. That's probably not even a real name. But I'm the other Jo Davis. So when you're looking, you may have to scroll down a little bit, because I think she's got like a ton of books. But yeah, I love the idea of collaborative projects. I really encourage people out there that are wanting to write, like, do a collaborative project. It's just a little bit like putting your foot in the water. It's not all the weight on you to publish a book, and you're putting out positivity in the world, especially, when the profits are able to go to helping and blessing and contributing to other people in need. So
I think
yeah.
that's amazing. And it really is, it goes towards the cooperation theme that I'm really pushing these days, where we can all honor the gifts of each other without having to be the best at everything. Just be the best at the one thing that you're really gifted at, and appreciate the gifts of those around you.
Mm-hmm.
And as women, if we can get into that habit, we can lift the whole world up, because we really do make a difference.
Yeah. And it's funny too, Jill, because I know there were some times in my life when I was really struggling. It was hard for me to watch other people's success, because that inner chatter in my brain was like, you're not doing enough. You haven't achieved this goal lately, blah, blah, blah. Like, I can remember ripping a vision board off the wall, because I was like, it became my nemesis. Because I was like, oh, I've accomplished all these things. And then I started obsessing about the things I had. And I was like, oh, you're going in the trash. So I tossed it, best day ever. But, I love this space of, really supporting each other, encouraging each other. But when you can't, just get quiet, put on your blinders, harness your own skills and talents that don't look like anybody else's. You do you, boo. And don't worry about what anyone else is doing. And if you're not in a position, you don't have the energy to be an encourager or a supporter or cheering other people on, it's okay. Just put your head down and do you. And then when you come up, what ends up happening is you naturally start attracting people that want to, magnify your light and amplify your work. And, I'm fascinated by the people that reach out. They want to, hey, how can I help you? So you honor your sacred space first, you do your work. And then the natural side effect of that is amazing people, the things you dream about, the things you desire, the relationships and experiences and adventures. This whole thing, it just sort of trickles down, but it all starts with self-love. It all starts with honoring your space. It all starts with eating well, sleeping well, getting rid of crappy people in your life that don't want to see you, succeed, or your bright light irritates their demons. So it just is a natural thing. It's a natural side effect. It's pretty effortless once you figure out the formula.
I agree. So how do people get in touch with you? If they want to work with you, or if they just want to get your books?
Easiest way, and actually you can go to my website, and when you sign up for my email list, you can actually get this for free. The download, which is a great book.
It's like Radical Self-Love.
Radical Self-Love. I know, I was very excited.
It's a podcast.
So it's Radical Self-Love.
It's pink.
And it's pink,
like
and little blue paint pot. Jessica Hughes was the phenomenal orchestrator of, bringing all of us writers together with our stories. It hit international bestseller, I believe, in 4 countries, in like 22 categories. But if you look up Radical Self-Love, Joe Davis, it should pop up. But you can get that PDF for free on my website, which is www.liftassisterup.com.
We'll be sure to put that in the show notes below. So, Joe, what's the one thing you want to leave the audience with today? You've covered so much.
So many things. So many things. I think the biggie for me is most of us have this guttural sense, this pull, this knowing in our belly, that we could be living a better way, that we could be like something's missing, or it shouldn't be this much chaos, or it shouldn't be this hard, or it's so noisy, I'm so anxious all the time. We have this feeling that something is off. And I would just say, hire me to help you, or book a massage. Hire me to help you, or look around at the friends and family in your life and figure out who's deserving of your sacred space, who's not, who hasn't earned a space there, and start curating things. And naturally the herd thins. Figure out what brings you joy and do a little bit of that every day, and it shifts your frequency. It naturally shifts your frequency, and it changes your environment. It changes what's going on around you. It, thins the herd. I always say that doing the little things were always more important than the big things. The little things we do every day, where we put our head, where we put our heart, our intention, our time, our energy, those little things we do every day, if we start sort of tweaking those, it doesn't have to end up being this big smackdown where you're in a life or death situation, looking around going, I know with COVID, a lot of people really, it brought a lot of things to our attention about who's really going to show up for us in need. How do neighbors take care of each other? So I really feel like it's always good to have help. You can always get there faster when you work with somebody, especially with this work. But if that's not something you're ready for, do little things every day to honor your sacred space, and really figure out and be mindful observing others. Like, what's my anxiety and what's yours? And if I'm feeling all of your anxiety, what is it that I'm not doing that I should be doing? How am I not honoring my sacred space? Because all of that wouldn't be working its way in if you didn't have those cracks and crevices that you hadn't healed. It couldn't get in there. So let's be different.
I love that.
Yeah, let's show up for ourselves differently. And it's a very conscious choice, and we do it all day long. All day long.
And just being present and being aware of your situation, and being good with, when you do arrive, and at some point you do arrive. It may be in spits and spurts, but you can get to a place where you can just appreciate the way your life is. And that's good too.
Gratitude is your superpower. You want to raise your frequency, attract good things in your life. You obsess on things. I mean, people obsess on their weight. They obsess on their career. They obsess on helicopter parenting. Obsess on gratitude. You want to change your life in 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, 30 days. Obsess on gratitude. Make it like your crack, like your addiction, like your Dr. Pepper, whatever it is. Obsess on gratitude, and all of a sudden that frequency starts to change, and all of a sudden things start showing up to be more grateful for. It's magic. Oh, there's so many hacks. There's so many great hacks. We make it so hard, don't we?
We do. It was so great getting to chat with you about the positive things that we can do to enjoy our lives and live the lives we really were created to live. Thanks for joining me, Joe.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the U World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.